Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Commander's Forge. My name is Andy Bentley, and the Forge is an area for me to talk about magic, Commander, and anything else while I try and drag this whole mental health thing back to where it's supposed to be. Now, today, I want to talk about one of the ways I like to do some deck building, but also a way that newer players can do some deck building, and that's upgrading precons. So, where I got this idea from was I was looking at building a green black squirrel deck because I was going through my boxes one day and I found Cloakwood Hermit, which is one of the backgrounds from one of the D&D sets. So it's 2 and a green background, and it says command creatures you own have at the beginning of your end step, if a creature was put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn, create 2 tapped 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. So I thought, green black squirrel aristocrats. And I was looking at the black things that can use a background, and none of them really fit the theme for what I wanted to do. Saravok was maybe the closest because he also wants you to sacrifice things. But then I remembered there's a green black squirrel list that was a precon in Bloomborough. So I picked that up. And while I haven't finished the deck yet, I haven't even decided who I want to run as the commander yet. I have an idea of where I'm taking it, and I started with removing the things I knew that definitely I didn't want in the deck, and that's most of the things that just care about tokens but not necessarily squirrels. So I'm definitely putting a higher squirrel count in the list, but that kind of led me back to Bloomborough with the forage mechanic. So I've also put a lot of forage things in here, or things that like make the food tokens. Again, I don't know what exactly I'm going to do for the commander. The precon comes with 3 possible commanders. The face commander is Hazel of the Root Bloom. That's 2, a green and a black for a 3/5 squirrel druid. It says tap, pay 2 life, tap X untap tokens you control, add X mana of any combination of colors. And at the beginning of your end step, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. If that token is a squirrel, instead create 2 of those. There's the old Acorn Gang, which is 3, a green and a black for a 5/5 squirrel warrior with menace, trample, and reach. And squirrels you control have tap. Target squirrel gets +2/+2, gains trample until end of turn, activate only as a sorcery. And whenever one or more squirrels you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. And it comes with what was kind of the original green-black squirrel commander, which is Chatterfang, Squirrel General. 2 and a green, 3/3 squirrel warrior with forest walk. If one or more tokens are created under your control, those tokens plus that many 1/1 green squirrel tokens are created instead. You can pay a black and sacrifice X squirrels to give target creature -X till end of turn. Now, I might kinda build this out and then decide who I want to put at the head, but I'm leaning between Hazel and Chatterfang so far. So Hazel is good because it's like ramp in the command zone. But if we are going to go with a heavy food subplot, it might be better to run Chatterfang. So again, I'll get most of the cards together and then I'll decide, what way I want to take this. And all that is to say, well, yes, now commander decks tend to be on the more expensive side. It is still cheaper to buy a pre-con deck and then upgrade it with, 10 or 15 cards. You can, for $100, you can get the deck and like 20 cards you want to swap out. I'm pretty notorious for cutting a bunch of tap lands and replacing them with either non-basic lands that enter untapped or just regular basics. In this case, probably going to go heavier basics because I'm going to change out a lot of things for ramp spells. So maybe that right there means I don't need Hazel in the command zone. But that said, until I sit down and actually build the deck, I don't necessarily know where it's going to end up. And, well, maybe I don't buy every precon anymore because there's just so many. It's nice to be able to, pick up one that you think, oh, I kind of like where this one's going, and then just have the opportunity to, upgrade it, change it. Play it out of the box a couple of times. See if you like the way it runs. Just, it's supposed to be an easy way to get into playing Commander. And I think it's pretty darn good at doing that. That said, that is kind of where I am right now with Magic. I was not terribly excited for the Spider-Man set. Truth be told, the only reason I'm excited for the Avatar set is that it's going to give me new allies to update my old ally list. And looking into next year, I don't know, I'm just tired, man. But that said, I'll take a quick break. When I come back, I'm actually going to talk about a deck that I put together for something that I'm doing with my playgroup. So I will be right back. And we're back. Now, in years past, me and my playgroup have done a league, and it had like a prize system and all that jazz. One of my friends got into some legal trouble and can't travel like he wanted to. So he wanted to do something similar to the league, but like have it not be a competitive thing and more of just a, hey, let's use this as an excuse to get together and play cards. So what we did was, instead of everybody buying a box or, a box of the same things, we got 4 boxes, and then we random drafted them. And by random, I mean we had 4 boxes. We rolled a die. The die determined where we would pick up. We rolled a d6. We had 4 boxes. On a 5, you got to choose, and on a 6, you re-rolled. So it turns out we all basically got a fairly even split of all 4 boxes. The boxes we used, we had Outlaws of Thunder Junction, we had Foundations, we had the space set that name is escaping me right now, Edge of Eternities, there we go, and the newest Tarkir set. And afterwards we kind of went through them and were like, okay, well, here's the legends we have, and then we could sit down and build the decks. Of the 4 of us, I made out like a bandit with legendary creatures. I think I had like 27. 28 technically, but I had 1 repeat, so I traded that one away. And I was just sitting there thinking, man, I could go with one of my 3-color ones, but I thought maybe a 2-color one would be better to start with, and as such, I ended up picking Selesnya with Hylia Ascendant Cadet. So she is 2, a green, and 2 white for a 3/3 human soldier. Whenever she enters or attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, and whenever one or more creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So simple enough, she can put counters on things herself, but I was going through my stuff and I'm like, man, I just have a lot of things in green and white that care about putting counters on things. And that's what I did. Now, I do want to go through some of the deck. I don't do exhaustive deck techs. And I kind of want to highlight a couple abilities. So first up, we have the Endure ability from the Tarkir set. So, to represent that, I have two cards here from the deck. The first one is Descendant of Storms. It's a single white for a human soldier, and whenever this creature attacks, you can pay 1 and a white. If you do, it endures 1, and it starts as a 2/1. We also have the Dusyet Earth Carver, which is 5 and a green for a 4/4 Elephant Druid with Reach, and when this creature enters, it endures 3. So again, I have several cards that have Endure. Sure, I could use it to, like, expand my board, but for the most part, Hylia just wants you to make big creatures, and so that's typically what we're going to be doing. Another mechanic that shows up a few times is Saddle, which is from the Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Yeah, that's the name. What I have here to showcase that is the Bounding Felidar, which is 5 and a white for a 4/7 cat beast mount. Whenever it attacks with saddled, you put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control, and you gain 1 life for each of those creatures. It has saddle for 2. So the saddling and the enduring are 2 ways I have that can put, counters on multiple creatures or that creature. But, you also want things that enter and give you counters, like Felidar Savior, which is 3 and a white for a 2/3 cat beast with lifelink, and when it enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each of 2 other target creatures you control. Or like Apothecary Stomper, which is 4 green for a 4/4 elephant with vigilance, and when it enters, you can either put 2 counters on a target creature you control or gain 4 life. Or we have things like Luxknight Breacher, which is 3 and a white for a 2/2 human knight that enters with a +1/+1 counter on it for each other creature and or artifact you control. We have Prairie Dog, which is 1 and a white for a 2/2 squirrel. It has lifelink, and at the beginning of your end step, if you haven't cast a spell from your hand this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Prairie Dog, and for 4 and a white until end of turn, if you have put 1 or more counters on a creature you control, you put that many +1 counters on it instead. We have Raucous Entertainer, which is 1 and a green for a 2/2 plant bard. For 1 and tap, you can put a counter on each creature you control that entered the battlefield this turn. It's a fun thing to do. Another ability, actually, there's a couple more abilities we have. So yeah, let's talk about Warp first. So Warp is an ability from Edge of Eternities where you get like a reduced cost to do a thing, and then it's exiled, and then you can cast it later. So what I have pulled to show that is the Drix Fatemaker, which is 3 and a green for a 3/2 Drix Warrior. When it enters, put a counter on target creature. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has trample, and it has warp for 1 and a green. The Weftblade Enhancer is the other card I have in this deck to show this ability. It is 5 and a white for a 3/4 Drix Artificer. When this enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. And it has warp for 2 and a white. And then the other thing I have in here is from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, which is Plot. So Sheriff of Safe Passage is 2 and a white for a 0/0 human knight. Enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it, plus an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each other creature you control. And it has Plot for 1 and a white. then we kind of get into the other abilities. So let's start with arguably the best one in the deck, which is, I know I'm going to butcher this name. It's Ouroboros? Anyway, 2 green for a 1/3 plant worm, and it says at the beginning of combat on your turn, put X +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, where X is this creature's power. So the way typically this is going to work is if we can play this on turn 4, go to combat, we put 1 counter on everything we control, right? So that makes it 2 power. Then on the next turn, if we can play Hylia, when she enters, puts the counter on the Ouroboros, which makes it a 3 power creature. We move to combat, it puts 3 counters on everything. And then, it snowballs a lot. Next to that, we have probably our 2 other powerhouses. The first one is Treetop Snare Spinner, which is 3 and a white for a 1/4 spider with reach, death touch, and for 2 and a green, you can put a counter on target creature you control, activate only as a sorcery. And we have the Mossborn Hydra, which is 2 and a green for a elemental Hydra. It's a 0/0 with trample. Creature enters with a +1/+1 counter on it, and it has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, double the number of +1/+1 counters on this creature. Next up, we have Skoos, or Scavenging Ooze. 1 and a green for a 2/2 ooze. And for a green, you can exile a target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, put a counter on this creature, and you gain 1 life. We have the Nessian Horn Beetle, which is 1 and a green for a 2/2 insect. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control another creature with power 4 or greater, put a counter on this creature. And the final card that I kind of pulled from the deck to talk about is the Dawnstrike Vanguard, which is 5 and a white for a 4/5 human knight with lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 2 or more tapped creatures, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control other than this creature. So we can, tap things to saddle, or we can just go to combat. There's lots of ways to reap the benefits. And then as long as Hylia is out and survives, and we can start chipping in for damage with anything with a counter on it, we're going to keep our hand fairly consistently full. And yeah, that's, 20% of the deck. There's, some whatever removal I could run. And yeah, I just kind of think I'm done now. So that's what I'm going to call it. And I guess I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. All of my links can be found in my link tree in the description below. I would like to thank Ian Foss and Cody Mulvey of the band The Crypt for allowing me to use music for my opening and ending, along with Nate and Erica Jacobs for making my original logo. And I would also like to thank Christina McNichol for creating my new logo. And I'll see you next time.